make it like really official. Like it's like
September 8th.
Like a news broadcast. September 8th, Japanese Knife 101. There we go. Okay. So for everybody who's tuning in right now, this is our Knife Wars weekly AMA, which I only learned in the last year means ask me anything.
Not
So,
American Motor Association.
Nope, not the American Motor Association. There we go. Let's get this mask on. So every week, Kevin and I get together and, via the internet, because I live in Ottawa and he lives in Calgary. But we talk about, we usually have a bit of a theme, and we talk about all kinds of, knife stuff. It's a really good opportunity if anyone had any questions about Japanese knives or about using Japanese knives or how to take care of Japanese knives. Maybe you need help picking out a brand new toy. But, and we've usually got a loose theme. We decided today that we were going to talk about what was it, Kevin? It was quite a ridiculous phrase we put together. What is the perfect 7-piece knife set?
With a subcontext of let's cut some squash since it's the time of year for squash cutting.
Yeah, it's squash time. So we figured, I went and bought a whole bunch of root veggies and some stuff to go along with it. So the idea is you can ask lots of questions by just kind of shooting them in the comments. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, we've got an eye on it. And, shoot us a question in the comments there and we'll get to it. Otherwise, we're gonna just ramble on and, show you what we think you need to know. So there we go. Oh, Mike is watching from Quebec City. So I've got Instagram on here as well, because I want to tell everybody who's watching on Instagram that if you go to YouTube, so knifeware.com/YouTube, or our Facebook page, the image is a little bit better and it won't just be me talking to myself because Kevin is in my headphones. So if you head over there, you'll get both sides of the conversation. So we got a couple of people. They are saying hello on Instagram. BenedictoKitchen.ph is asking, what's a good nikiri for squash? So we might as well just jump into it.
Well, here, we can probably just jump right into squash. I don't know about you, but I think there's 3 ways you can cut a squash.
Okay.
I don't know.
I know what
how do you cut a squash? Well, what do you do?
I'm maybe a little more boring, and I use a big knife. I try to find something nice and big that is, in the grand scheme of things, a little more rugged, maybe might be the word I use. I like to lean on my, what knife do I have at home that I use for squash? This might be a weird choice, but I use my Kagura 240 for most squashes.
Do you really?
So I do.
And do we have a matching knife there too? I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, I got mine when Kagura's just in that last big run. So I generally, when I'm picking a knife for squash, I like something that's a bit thicker across the spine. In theory, it's a little more rugged. If you're kind of new to all this, I might stick with something that's a little bit of a softer steel, which if you're just kind of new to what we're talking about, welcome. But when we talk about steels, particularly with there's a reason why we like Japanese knives more than the rest of the knives. And that's because the knife makers and the blacksmiths all use harder steel. And what that means is that the harder the steel gets, the sharper the knife is going to get, and the longer it's going to stay sharp. Now, that can affect, what's a good word? Like a really hard steel can be more delicate as well. So you wouldn't take a knife that's made out of really, really hard steel and use it for frozen foods or bones. And you might want to be careful with squash. Squash tends to be one of those vegetables that do hang up a lot of people. And I think it's because it's a dense vegetable. I bought a bunch of stuff here that would give you, if you had a hard time with squash, it would give you a hard time. Like I got a rutabaga. rutabagas are really dense. They can, you know, what you want to avoid, and is what we're going to focus on a little bit here, is that you don't want to be twisting, right? When you're cutting, you always want to go forwards and backwards, let the knife do the work. You don't want to drive it in, get wedged in there, and then try to push it off. And twist it. You know, like your Henkels or your Wusthof, you could still chip one of those. They're not invincible by any means, but they're less likely to get hung up in that because the steel is softer. But they'll never get as sharp. Even like an entry-level Japanese knife, like a Tojiro DP, or, you know, people often get it in their heads these things cost an arm and a leg, which isn't true. But you know, even like an entry-level Japanese knife is going to is blow the socks off of a Henkel when we're talking about sharpness and edge retention, right? So I did mention on Facebook, Janine is one of my favorite customers in Ottawa. She really skyrocketed.
Oh, really?
The list. Oh, yeah. Because Janine, I'll tell you this, Alex was doing a cut like a chef class in French one day, and Janine started harassing him a bit, like, because she likes Al. Can't blame her. He's a handsome boy. He's handsome, and he was speaking in French. So Janine was kind of pointing that out, and it was a riot. I owe Janine a beer should she come into the store. So
was Alex squirming? Was Alex squirming a bit?
Alex was squirming. Yeah.
Good
And
to
then
hear.
the Voog on Facebook is asking if he should let his kids use his SG2 knives to carve a pumpkin, and it really just depends on. It just depends on what you know. Depends on how much you trust your kids. I wouldn't do it, but that's up to you. You know.
No, my kids get more rugged knives.
Yeah.
They get more rugged knives.
Yeah. So.
Pumpkins, squashes. I reckon there's three ways to do it. I know a lot of people attack it with a big knife, right? And they try to get their biggest, scariest knife. I'm funny. I like to do it with a paring knife or a petty knife, so because they're thinner.
Okay.
I can just kind of zip it and kind of just go around it like a Ziploc. You know what I mean? Like just kind of chug around. Because once you get the first cut on the pumpkin, it's easy after that. Right into the squashes after you get the first cut. So I like to do that. I don't really like to attack with a big knife until I've done the first cut. It's safer. But the way that I really like doing it, and it's a lot more fun, is you take the squash with two hands above your head and chuck it on the ground.
Yeah.
And I really like that because then it cracks and then you pull it up and you kind of pull it apart and then it's easy to cut after that. Plus you end up with some kind of jagged looking pieces. You should do that. It's good. It's good TV. People like it. Our friend Minority Report just showed up.
Oh, hey, bud.
And Clems just joined up, said, "Hi, boys and girls. Hope you all healthy and well."
Yeah. No complaints. I'm just going to peel some root veg while we're talking here. I got some carrots. It's just like, you know what? It seemed like I was kind of being like jumping the gun a little bit by going for the roasted root veg, but it's been kind of cold here.
Well, we had a cold 2 days here in Calgary for sure. But tomorrow's going back up to the 20s, so that's good.
Okay. That's a weird carrot. Look at how green that is. So I can smash a pumpkin if you want. You know, it's really like
it's such a good thing they named a band after it. So I think you should.
You know what? I saw the Smashing Pumpkins once when I was a kid.
Did you really?
They played at a big festival here. Yeah.
How was that? Was that when they were good, or was that when they thought they were really good and they were terrible?
Well, you know what? I think it was the latter. But what ended up happening was they had like this huge like technical malfunction, and they ended up playing in like a largely acoustic set, which was cool because it made them play a bunch of the old songs when they were on that. Like this would have been like 2000 or 2001. So they would have been on a big. Because
we've got a really good view of your hands. Oh, there we go. I was gonna say if you don't do anything, it looks really boring.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of. I can't talk to the people on Instagram, but you got a lot of people on Instagram saying things and asking
Okay.
questions like I got a medium Conroe grill and I'm in love. What do you guys recommend to clean inside and outside without damaging it? I know I'm not supposed to use water.
Okay, so
And I'm
Deep
interested too because I've never
NYC.
cleaned mine.
Yeah, you know what?
In
You
3
can
years.
use water, and one of the best, like it depends. Like I had definitely used water and one of those Tawashi brushes. If you got the Conroe starter set, you would have gotten a Tawashi brush in there as well. So
They're the best
just
ones.
use some warm soapy water and the brush. That brush, I cleaned the tub with one the other day. They're amazing. But use that. What's important is that the grill it's not that you can never get it wet. It's that you can't use it while it's still wet.
Yeah, you don't want to crack
then-
the cement or the
Yeah.
ceramic.
So so that's what, yeah, use water, but just make sure it's good and dry before you light it up again. That's all, because you don't want to crack the ceramic. And then Benedicto's saying, speaking of kids, what would be a good size knife for them to start around 7 years old? Well, there is a Tojiro kids knife,
Nah,
which is
too-
great. But
for
at
a
that
7-year-old?
age,
At 7, you can have a real knife.
I'm getting there.
Sorry, go. Sorry.
Yeah, I would go with, like, you know what? Depend, like a Santoku's good, a Kamagata. Where's it? I think we got a Kamagata. Kumo Kamagata. Here we go. I've just wandered off. Look at this pumpkin for a second. That is
I
a
have a
really good
Kamagata.
knife for a 7-year-old.
Oh
But
yeah.
you know what?
That's a great
Anything
knife
that
for
they're
7-year-old.
comfortable holding on to, right?
know
Like,
what?
because
I'll
this
tell
is
you
going to teach them to keep their hands up off of the, they're going to actually learn how to chop properly. This
I've
is
got an
one of my new
8-year-old
favorites.
that reaches for either a Santoku,
Yeah.
excuse me, or like a 135, 150 petty. So she
Well, you
grabs
know
both of
what would
those.
be, what would be a really
But my
awesome knife? It depends on how much you like your
12-year-old
kid.
My 12-year-old goes for 210 every time.
I was going to say a 150 Gyuto would be a really good knife.
Oh, yes,
For
it's
a
like a
kid.
small Santoku, right? I think that'd be
Yeah.
fantastic. It's got the right shape. It's a chef's knife shape. It's got the knuckle clearance, so you can cut on the board. I think that's a really smart move.
Yeah, and it'll eventually, like, it's a knife that, like, they're not going to outgrow it. Like I was talking about this Tojiro kids knife, like they would outgrow it, and that knife would kind of get left behind. But I have a 150 Gyuto that I really like. I use it all the time. So
You might
you
want
ever
to tell
peel
people on
squash like
Instagram
this with a knife?
to come over to the
Oh,
YouTubes.
yeah. If
Also-
you come over to YouTube, there's. Sorry, Kevin, go ahead.
No, go for it.
I was going to say, if you're watching on YouTube,
Instagram.
you can get a better. If you're watching on Instagram, you can get a better look at what I'm doing if you go over to YouTube. So we've got a YouTube channel now. We're live over there as well. It's knifeware.com/YouTube, and there'll be just if you'll see a little live, and that'll be where we're hanging out. So you'll get to see, you'll be able to see what I'm doing a little bit better, and you'll be able to hear Kevin's side of the conversation. You can still ask questions and leave comments there too.
Yeah, and you know what? This is a great day and time to ask for questions, right? Because we're going to talk about squashes and we're going to talk about a perfect 7-piece set, but we're also just going to take any questions you have. And it looks
We'd
like
rather
the
ask
Voog-
what you've got on your mind than.
Yeah, much more
What's the
interesting
Voog
to answer
saying?
your questions than to tell you. The Voog is saying that he lovingly refers to his Henkel's knives as family friendly.
Yes, I know what he means by that. So I don't know if anyone was really paying attention there, but I use my knife to peel my squash, right?
I saw that. You look like my style.
So it was kind of like, I prefer that to this, like a peeler. Like, now this is great. You saw me use it on the carrots and the sweet potato, but on a squash, the peels tend to be really thick and they get to be a pain. So, but here, this is important. Watch this part, everyone. This
what are
is
you
where you're
doing?
going to chip your knife if you do it. I'm going to cut this squash in half so I can scoop the seeds out.
Hey, what
So
knife
I've
is
got
that?
this is a Homura Kogetsu from Doi-san, but this is the 240 Tsuji. But it's tall enough that I can use it as a gyuto. So it's a carbon steel knife. It's great. But
And
I
it's
like it because it's nice and
forged.
thick.
It's forged by the son, who is now an exceptional blacksmith as well, but from the son of Doi Senior, who was really seen by even other blacksmiths in Japan. He was seen as a really special knife blacksmith. Not for sharpening and honing or anything like that, or polishing, just for forging knives. He was terribly skilled at understanding steel and hammering steel in a way that other blacksmiths in different areas went, "Ooh, Doi-san." So I always thought that was interesting, that he seemed to get respect from all parts of Japan when I talked to other blacksmiths. And so those were his son's knives, and his son worked with him for, well, their whole lives, right? So the son certainly had a good teacher. And I don't know if he's of the same caliber where people go, "Ooh," but
if he's kind of earned that extra. Well, you know what? It's kind of like they must know in Japan, like, because I always, when I'm talking to people about like when I talk about like how, Yoshimi Kato has taken over for Hiroshi Kato, and how, Doi-san and whatnot, like they must know that, like, they've been working with their dad, like that for X number of years, the younger person's been doing a good chunk of the work, right? Like you can't expect that, like, if you go to like Gordon Ramsay Vegas, that he is there on the line busting out your steak. Like, there has to be something, like, I don't know. Is that crazy? Is that crazy to say?
So somebody asked who we're talking about. We're talking about Kajiro Doi and his son, who are two of the top blacksmiths in Japan. But Kajiro Doi, he's retired, well, passed. But he was really seen as by amongst blacksmiths around Japan, really seen as one of the best. And it's his son's knife Kevin, using right there.
Yeah, I really like this knife. At first, I thought they were, I'll be honest, like, I thought they were kind of strange because of the amount of belly that the knife has. So if you hear me say belly, I'm referring to the curve of the edge. And because that would be the term that I would use. Like if you told me like, oh, I want a knife that's got a lot of rock, like it's really like a good rocking knife, I would say that it's got a lot of belly. And at first I thought they were too much, but the last couple times we've been doing these videos in particular, like the knife skills ones, I've been reaching for this knife, and I quite like it.
Oh, you know what? And it's the spine is fat. It's like, it's a bit wider, the knife. It's a bit more rugged, but it doesn't cut like a rugged, like it doesn't cut like a fat knife. It cuts, but I guess that probably just is a nod to Doi's skill, right? Yeah. Well, listen, Don Penny is saying that's an interesting scooping looking knife. And by the way, Chris Lord's terrible at making brisket. I'm brilliant. Just
yeah, well, I don't know why Don Penny, like, he just shows up every week just to pick on me.
Yeah,
and
he just says your brisket.
That it's just, I can't imagine that it's, it couldn't possibly be you just harassing me and relying on the fact that I see the comments.
No,
you wouldn't do that.
It's Don Penny. He's really got it out for you. He tells me every time I come to Ottawa, I should come and eat at his place and eat his brisket and I should compare, but I'll know that his is better. That's what he says. He's like that. Brian Crook's got a fantastic question. He says, any new knives you have in the shop that you guys are excited about?
Oh, Chris, yeah, there's a whole case.
Chris Lord, what do you think this is? This is my new knife. Can you see it?
Oh, did you get that? Is that one of those? Oh, it is too. Look at that. That's one of those Manaka knives.
Yeah, this is the ATS 30 Manaka knife. Or ATS 34, sorry.
Those are amazing.
This is stainless steel. And look at it, it's just like it's cool looking, right?
Yeah.
So it's stainless steel, but it's made with a hunting knife steel, which means it's quite rugged steel. It's not terribly hard. Like it's not going to stay sharp forever, but it certainly is. God, I love how it's polished. I love how it's sharpened. And Chris, you know something about the forging. Look at how shiny that is. Look at that.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, that knife is gorgeous.
This knife,
You'll notice
I'll tell you what
like,
though, I've really liked everything about it. I like that it's stainless. I like that it looks rad. I like that it cuts like crazy. Well, there's one thing I don't like so much about it. And it has to
you
do
told
with
me
the
about
feature.
this.
So tell us the feature that you like about this knife.
Okay, so the way that Manaka has forged those knives is that he leaves the. You might have to correct me here, Kevin, but I'm going to grab one just so I can speak to it a bit better. What are you picking out? You're a smart person. It's a good thing you came by.
But I love these knives. I'm gonna tell you what Chris is gonna try to tell you. He has, when he forges, he'll hammer right along the edge here, like all blacksmiths do to thin the blade out. But he also hammers along this edge too to thin it out a bit. And if you look at it in bisection like this, you would see, not what I'm doing on this, but you'd see it looks a bit like a triangle.
Yeah.
And he does that so it doesn't stick to food, and he does that for a lot of, Brian Crook knows this knife. It's Kiske. Yeah, Manaka's Kiske, ATS-34S, or ATS-34. Anyway, he does that so it doesn't stick to food and get bound, but he also does it to increase the strength of it through the belly here, I'm told, and he also does it to keep the blade lighter. But I like it, but the problem is it doesn't stick on my magnets properly. It always kind of turns because it doesn't have a firm surface area to stick to because of that diamond shape.
Flat edge.
Yeah, it's got that diamond shape too, and I think that's the problem. I also think that if it was a carbon steel blade, it would stick better.
You know what, Kevin? I've got one here. Oh no.
Oh no, you know what I realized?
What?
Don Penny says, I think we should all just meet up at Fat Boys next time Kevin's in town. That's if I'm ever allowed to go back to leaving Calgary.
Yeah. But no, we'll definitely come down, Don.
And the Voog says it sounds like a good challenge because he's a barbecue judge, Kansas City barbecue judge.
That's right. So I think we've got a good Friday evening planned out here. Over on Instagram, I've got Benedicto was asking, this is the Homura Kogetsu Tsujihiki. They also do a 240 and a 210 Gyuto, a lot taller. But I like this. This one, it's kind of a weird choice, but I really like it. And then he says, speaking of Manaka, what is your experience with sharpening ATS-34? How does it compare to AS? Now, I'm presuming that when you say AS, you mean Algami Super or Super Blue Carbon. I haven't actually sharpened one of Manaka's knives yet. I haven't had to. And it's the first time I've come across that steel. But everything that any of like my educated guess, if it were, would tell me that the Super Blue Carbon is a lot harder. So it might not actually take much longer because sometimes stainless steels can be more difficult to sharpen than a carbon steel. But I imagine it'll take a little bit longer. You won't get quite the edge on it that you would on a Super Blue Carbon, but it'll be a lot more durable.
I don't
and a
know,
lot
man.
easier.
The edge on this is wild right now. And I imagine you could get a very toothy edge on this. Like I imagine you could get a really toothy edge on this that would just bite like Algami Super. I don't know though, I haven't sharpened it yet.
So just doing some obliques here. It's called a rolling cut. I don't know if anyone cares about knife skills today, but here we are. I'm gonna grab a fresh carrot. I peeled this carrot. I'm gonna do what's called a rolling cut or an oblique. And I'm going to do it so it's like looking straight on. So the carrot is parallel to me, right? And I'm going to go at about a 45-degree angle and just snip off the end because this one's kind of gross. So I'm gonna throw that away. But then you take the carrot and you roll it a quarter turn towards yourself. So 90 degrees, okay? And then just kind of shift up a bit.
That's
Give it a
one
cut,
of my
and then
favorite
roll it.
ways to cut that.
Oh yeah. You know what I like about it is that when I learned how to do it, I worked at the Rito Club and I'd have to do banquets for up to 300 people. And this makes for a very quick garnish for 300 people.
Doesn't it? Looks cool, right?
Yeah. And it works really well like if you're gonna roast veggies or, you know, I used to do a carrot salad. Like I know, Kevin, you really like that kind of grated carrot salad with the cumin and the olive oil. And but I used to just like roast them like that,
Right.
and like make a little bit of a dressing and, you know, get some nice color on them.
I like that too. Listen, we've got a few things going on here. Brian Crook, and I don't know if he means Mike in Calgary, but you've got a mic out there, don't you?
I've got a mic out here too.
Yeah. So he says Mike has got him wanting that 210 Manaka, something bad. I get it. I'm holding the 210 in my hand. I love this knife. And then we've got someone asking about the Hinura Nakiri, the VS2 with the rainbow Damascus look. And he said, is that made by the master himself or his son? One, I'd like to say they're both mastered blacksmiths. And two, it's Hinura Tsukasi, so the father who made that one knife. You usually know the difference between the father's knives and the son knives because they're $1,000 to $800 different in price.
Yep. Yeah.
So if the price makes you go, oh dear, that's crazy, there's a real good chance that was Tsukasa the father. Because the son's knives, Buchan's knives are much more inexpensive. Outstanding blades, but doesn't have the same reputation as father does. And it looks like Don Penny says, one of my garage sale knives doesn't seem to be super sharp, so I'm thinking I should bring in my pandemic collection and show it off and get at least one sharpened and maybe find a small knife to add to my set. And he thinks his Kokuto Nakiri has turned out to be his favorite. And it's amazing slicing potatoes with it. And I've also got that Nakiri, Don. I get it. I love that Kokuto Nakiri. But my favorite Nakiri is from the Moritakas, generally.
Oh,
because
you know
it's
what?
super flat. It's a super flat edge. Super flat edge.
You know what just came in today?
And it takes a bit of skills to work it, but I like it better, probably because it takes a bit of skill.
What about this one?
What do you got there?
What do you know about this knife?
Lots.
You got to read in mirror. This is, you got a good story about this knife in particular.
Oh, yeah. That's a Kevin Kent design. I didn't want a huge Chikabocho, but I wanted a bigger Nakiri. So I asked them to make something that size, and it took about 6 months of backing and forthing until I finally drew and measured what I wanted and then put it in an envelope. Like I drew it on a piece of paper to scale, cut it out, and then with measurements on it as well, and then posted it to them. And that's when I started making it. And I just called it the Mega Nakiri because it was bigger than a Nakiri, but it wasn't quite a Chikabocho yet. So there you go. That's how the Mega Nakiri showed up in our lives.
Oh, that's a good.
So that's fun. I like that the Moritakas will just kind of trust me and make crazy stuff.
Razor Sharp Hawaii on Instagram has just asked me, and I don't have an answer for this. You should really head over to YouTube because Kevin might know this and I don't. He's saying recently saw a Japanese watermelon knife. Do you have one or have you ever used one? Thought it was awesome looking.
It's just a huge Nakiri generally, like super long. That is.
Okay, like that one that Onru made for you like a couple of years ago?
Yeah, not quite that big, but yeah, something like that. Like the one Anderson made was a joke, right?
Yeah.
So it's something like that. Sometimes Tojiro will call it their almighty knife or the great big knife.
Okay.
I will see. I'll see if I can get one.
Yeah.
For the garage sale coming up.
Yeah. So Razor Sharp, keep an eye on the garage sale we're gonna see if we can find something like that. Kevin says, yeah, okay, so I have seen them. They've come through the shop here and like, you know, around garage sale time, we've seen a few of them. They're a lot of fun. I know, you know, I've seen people buy them and use them for cutting pizzas because I guess there's only so much watermelon you can eat. I don't know.
Hey
Not if
Chris, do
actually kids,
you
but I
want to
would
look like
love-
a really cool guy?
Yeah.
Kobayashi-san's just joined on Instagram, so he can't hear me.
Oh.
So if you go over and get a
Can't hear.
Kobayashi knife and then talk about how cool his knives are,
Oh yeah.
he'd
I
probably
could
get a
do
kick
that.
out of that.
Yeah,
Kobayashi-san
I've only got the one right now. Got one in red.
Kobayashi-san and I spent an evening in a gyoza and sake bar hiding from a typhoon in October last time I was in Japan. So that was quite fun actually, because him and the other guys we were with, they all wanted to drink all night, and I am happy to eat gyoza all night. So we did. It was great. And then we got tired of one place, so we went down the street to another place and also ate gyoza and drank more sake. It was perfect. So Chris, why don't you hold that knife up and say something good about Kobayashi's knives?
Oh, I gave him a wave and I wiggled the knife around a whole bunch, but no. So yeah, so Kobayashi-san, where is he located exactly?
Seki. It's in
In
Seki.
Seki. In Seki. So
He's a really fantastic knife sharpener and grinder.
okay. Well,
So
here, what I'm gonna
this
do.
is something new he's trying. Is he's trying out different knife makers, and then that he thinks are good, and then grinding them and finishing them the way he thinks they should be, which is a bit different from what they're normally doing.
Yeah, one of the things that like the knife is super thin. Like
Yeah.
there's like it's like it vanishes. But another thing is now I don't have any in our store, but if you're ever looking on the website, he makes an incredible Damascus. Like his Damascus knives are amazing.
Yeah.
I missed out during the garage sale this year, but next time they roll through, I want to get one. Kevin, I'm sure is gonna. You don't have yours there, eh? That you could show with the cool handle.
Mine's packed up right now.
Okay.
Because I'm in the middle of moving still, because I'm apparently very bad and slow at moving.
Well, that's
So there's that. Don Penny. Oh no, not Don Penny. Michael Pallas says, can you compare Shibata Kotetsu 240 to the Masashi Kimuri 240?
Oh, they're completely different.
They're super different. Michael, if you can get to a store, you can handle them. If not, you're gonna have to listen to us talk about how different they are. But
yeah, I own a 270 Tsujihiki, and I
Of which
own
one?
of the Kotetsu,
right?
and I own a Masashi 210. It's one of the SLD, the mirrored ones. Now, the biggest difference is Masashi's knives are quite thin, but he's built a knife that is intended to be used by a professional. Whereas Shibata has built a knife that is intended to be the sharpest thing you've ever laid eyes on.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing you're going to notice when you pick it up in your hand is that the Kotetsu is considerably lighter than the Masashi, and it's going to be a lot more delicate, partly because it's ground a lot thinner, and it's a much thinner knife, and it's a much harder steel. Whereas Masashi is using an SLD in the Kimuri. He said Kimuri, not Koi, right?
Kimuri, yep.
Yeah, so he's using in the Kimuri. So he's using he's using a steel that is, I wouldn't say it's like
it's not quite as hard.
Yeah, it's not quite as hard. So it's not going to get, just kind of on paper, it's not going to get quite the same edge. But it will hold up to a little more use, you know? I've been using a Masashi Nikiri here. Now this is the Shiroshu, same type of steel, very similar. Like if I were to put it against the Kimuri, the biggest difference is going to be the Damascus. It adds a little bit of texture here, so it kind of slides through the food a little bit differently.
Yeah.
But Yeah, it really just depends on what you're looking for in the end. If you're looking for a knife that is going to, are you looking for a scalpel or are you looking for something you can use all day?
Yeah. So Michael, if you have any follow-up questions, let us know. But I guess like I said, the big difference is the Kotetsu is going to be the sharpest, lightest thing you've ever used. And the Masashi is built to put up to the rigors of a professional kitchen. So it's a little bit more rugged. But I wouldn't say it's any less or well, no, it's probably not quite as sharp, but that's really being a nerd level, right?
Yeah.
Like they're both blazing sharp.
I really enjoy showing off. I like both of them. I really do like showing off Masashi's knives because he and I, I've got to hang out with Shiba a bit too, but I really feel like I really hit it off with Masashi. Like Masashi was part of like a really exciting day for me. How many years ago was that, Kevin? When he came to Ottawa? 3 summers ago?
3? I think it was 3. I think
Because
it was like
last year we
2017.
didn't. Yeah, it was because it was Canada 150.
Maybe it was 28. Maybe it was 2018.
Yeah, well, last summer we didn't have a guest. The year before we had Shiba and Ikeda and Kato, and the year
Right.
before was Masashi, 2017.
Right.
And so when Masashi came, I don't know how I did it, but maybe Naoto must have had more to do with it than I did. But we got invited to have lunch with the Japanese ambassador to Canada.
That's right.
Like
we had a great time.
thing I had ever been a part of. And then we ended up we just kind of cruised around downtown for a bit while there was all kinds of because it was a big year for Ottawa,
Yeah.
Canada 150, and we cruised around a bunch and we just had a great time. So like every time I show off his knives, it's just kind of like a good memory of a crazy couple days.
Yeah, we got so cooked to death on that one rooftop
up on
patio.
That patio. Yeah, the Andes Hotel has a rooftop patio. We went up there.
But they have no shade. It was just killer. It was disgusting.
Yeah.
I melted. So we've got some comments and some questions. Anthony's asking, what are you guys talking about today? I'm late. And Anthony, I guess the answer is we're talking about how to cut some difficult vegetables like squash and rutabagas, or swede as I like to call them.
Oh, wow. You didn't spend any time in England?
I might have spent close to a decade there, Christopher. So he's cutting some swede now. Rutabaga, if you like. So we're talking about that and what makes a perfect 7-knife set, but we haven't got to that yet because we just keep answering questions. So Anthony, ask us a question and we don't have to talk about that.
The biggest thing.
Damon Spector said, what happens to my beautiful Damascus clad knife when it comes time for thinning? Does it need to be re-etched after? Damon, you have to tell us which knife it is, because different knives get finished different ways, right? So if it's a Kumo, for example, we'll etch it again, and it will look real similar. If it's a Masashi Shiroshu, we're going to polish it with finger stones. If it's I don't know, they all have different ways we're going to take care of it. So Damon, let us know what knife you're talking about, and we'll tell you what happens. And but trust me, we're not going to make it look ugly. We're going to try to make it look really beautiful for you when you're done. Brian says, how does that Manaka with the weird shape, meaning this one with the diamond shape, how does this go through taller foods like an apple? Do you know what? Do you know what we can do?
What?
Do you know what we can do for fun? You can walk through my house.
Go to your kitchen?
We go to my kitchen.
Chef Max just joined on Instagram. How's your new Denka Nakiri going, bud?
Look at this.
Oh, look at that.
Here's a tall apple. This is a Honey Crisp.
Oh, those are the good
you hear
ones.
That sound? It's cracking all the way down. So there you go. It's a rugged knife, but it doesn't slide through. Yeah, it's cracking the what am I saying? It's cracking through the apple. But if we get something thinner, like my Fujiwara Nakiri. You hear that? I don't know if you can hear it, but it cut right through, and you see the difference are, can you see the ridges and the cracks on this one? And the Fujiwara is really clean cut. So the Fujiwara is super sharp, but it doesn't cut as smoothly as that Manaka. Or I mean, it cuts more smoothly. The Fujiwara cuts more smoothly than the Manaka, but it's not nearly as rugged. As you can see by the little tiny chips. Can you see my knife? It's got little chips right there.
Oh,
that is me chipping my knife. So there you go. It happens to everybody, man.
Yeah.
There's the Manaka, rugged blade, man, but didn't hold up so much to the super slick cutting. There's my knife collection for the day.
Ah.
But it's like my knives are like a museum where you can only see a few of them at the same time. They come and go. Woo-hoo. Hey Chris, there's that weird lamp. Look at that weird chandelier I've got.
Oh yeah, that's the best couch going. That couch there.
You have slept on that couch a number of times.
I have. I'm pretty.
So there you go. The Fujiwara cuts a lot more smoothly than the Manaka, but that Manaka is rugged, man.
But that's kind of like that's often the trade, isn't it?
That's often what happens, right?
Like how often, like when you're helping a person, like I've had this conversation several times today. I'm going to adjust the camera so I can just talk to you. I've had this conversation a couple times today where you kind of narrow it down to just a couple of knives, right? Like, because when you come in and if you tell me like, I want a chef's knife, well, first we're going to figure out, do you mean a Gyuto or a Santoku? And then I'm going to take out 10 or 12 different knives and we're going to figure out what you like. And in the first couple seconds, you're like, oh God, this is a lot of knives, this is a lot of decision making. But we get figured out super fast. Like it's not hard. But it always comes down to, well, are you looking for performance? Or like, are you willing to kind of sacrifice performance for maintenance? It's always like, it's 9 times out of 10, that's what it comes down to.
When you mean maintenance, what do you mean?
Well, a lot of the time when we're talking about, when I say maintenance for a knife, the thing that usually comes up is that someone is looking at a carbon steel knife, or a knife that incorporates carbon steel. So if you're just joining, or you just in the last couple of minutes, and you hadn't heard me say this already, the reason why Knifeware specializes in Japanese knives is because Japanese knife makers use much harder steel. The harder the steel gets, the sharper the knife is going to get. The sharper, and it's going to hold that edge for longer. Now, often, the reason why it's harder is because maybe it's a carbon steel, right? If you add more carbon to that iron, I don't get too nerdy because I can't keep up. But the more carbon you add, the more reactive the steel is going to get. And when I say reactive,
the more iron you add.
Is that, yes. Yeah. So iron will rust.
It's not got to do with more iron. It's got to do with nickel and less nickel, sort of, and chromium and
so
different things like that. Basically, if you have about 11% or 9 to 11% of nickel, it's going to be stainless. But if you don't have that, it's probably going to be carbon steel. It's going to be rusty.
So like, look at this one. You can see this knife just belongs to the store, and we hand it over to customers to test. But you can see it's developing a patina. So this knife, we're doing a good job of taking care of it. But carbon steels, if you leave them wet, they will rust. Unlike a stainless steel knife, which if you leave it wet for a little while, you'll be okay. But a stainless steel knife, like, don't think that that's just like gives you free reign for abusing your knives. Like, you can make a stainless steel knife rust. What the Jesus is that?
This is a sample knife that never went anywhere. They were terrible.
Okay.
But I had a bunch of knives in storage for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
And you know why, Chris? Because I was having some work done in my house that went a year longer than the 5 months it was supposed to.
Sideways on you.
Everything went sideways. Yep. And I had a lot of knives in storage, and just the moisture in the air rusted them.
Yeah.
So this is what happens, right? Carbon steel can rust. You can rust stainless steel too if you try hard. This is
Yeah,
what
you
can
kinda gotta
happen.
be
So
a little more
I've got
negligent.
quite a job here now to fix this knife. Sadly. If you look through our YouTube channel, you see Naoto and I do a advanced sharpening class every Friday afternoon, and one of them was all about removing rust from knives. And sadly, both the knives were mine because I have a lot of knives that rusted in that year and a half time, which is a bummer.
Well, it's one of the things I often tell people when they're picking out a knife too, is that a knife that is often used is much easier to take care of.
Oh, you know what? Carbon steel knives, use them every day, no problem.
Yeah.
Put them away for a bit, problem.
Well, it's like a cast iron pan. If you can take care of a cast iron pan, you enjoy using them, you can handle a carbon steel knife. No, without a question, you can do it.
Absolutely.
You know,
Carbon
I think
steel's not
knives
hard.
are
You just
less
have to
finicky than
have
carbon.
courage. You just have to have courage.
Yeah.
Listen, we've got Brian says, thanks for the perfect demo with the apple. You got it, man. It's Brian again. The Manaka is more tough and more rugged. Hard things like apples and potatoes, it kind of splits them open, right?
Yeah.
Same with Takeda. We've got another question about Takeda and Akiris. Takeda knives are the same way. They can kind of split stuff open sometimes. But they're super fun to use. As well, Damon said his knife that he needs to thin is a Kato Black Damascus. So what we will do, and I'm sure your store does this, right, Chris? You have you have all the chemicals and stuff to re-black a Damascus knife. Perfect.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is we'll sharpen it, we'll thin it, we'll sharpen it, we'll polish it, and then we'll rewash it with acid to etch it and make that black pattern pop again. It should look almost like it did the first day. And if you're thinning it, that means we've sharpened it a few times. That means you've had that knife for a while and you love it. So that's super awesome news.
Yeah.
I hear lemon juice works very well to take rust out. Leave it on the blade a few minutes and then wipe. I use my rust eraser generally. Sometimes I use a barkeeper's friend, this powder that we get with a cloth, and I kind of scrub it. And sometimes I just use a sharpening stone.
Yeah, a bit of mud off of the stone does a good job. You know what?
It depends how deep it is. Like this is super deep. Like this is.
Yeah.
I got to carve some steel away to get this off. It's not good.
I had to. That kind of makes me think a little bit of. I had a knife come through the store last week, where a lot of people, when they're kind of looking at their carbon steel and they're thinking about stuff, they get talking about forcing a patina on a knife.
Oh.
So when a patina is a thin layer of good rust. All right. Are you going to get a knife with a patina on it, Kevin?
Yep.
Okay. So Kevin's going to show you what that looks like. But a lot of people get it in their head that you need to force a patina on a carbon steel knife, and I don't know that. I just use my knives and let it kind of happen as it comes. But this fella, I don't know what, I think he had used white vinegar to force a patina on a knife. And I'd never seen the knife before. He bought it somewhere else, but he brought it to us to fix it for him. And what happened was that he left it in this vinegar for too long, and it really rusted up the edge and ate away at some of the kind of the bond between the cladding and the core. And it took a lot of work. We had to, I had to grind out the sides of the knife. I had to thin the knife out, reprofile it. It was a lot of work. So just be careful if you're messing around with that stuff. You know, you're trying to force a patina. We've done a really great blog post on the website where Adam, the assistant manager up in our Edmonton store, used instant coffee. And that was a lot gentler than like a really acidic, you know, like this one guy had used vinegar, like I said, and that was a bit much.
I've done that. I've played that game a few times where even one time I rubbed mustard all over it.
Yeah, I've heard of that too.
But I don't know. It just, I find it seems silly. Like I just use them and they take care. So you can see the patina along the edge of this Fujiwara Denka Nakiri here, right? Yeah. But this is my Muskagi Shimo. This is a prototype of Muskagi knives. You can see it doesn't have the curve here, the right curve here, and the Machi is too small. So this is like the prototype of the first Shimo. Super reactive blade. And I've used this and abused it for a long time. And this is the patina it's picked up, and it's starting to look really cool. But I've never forced a patina on this. I've just used it, right? And I like how it changes over time. It just starts, it looks like my knife now,
Yeah.
right? What is that? What is that thing? Was it Platoon? This is my rifle. There's a lot of rifles like this, but this is mine.
Oh yeah.
I feel
Yeah,
that way about this knife. We've got Thomas asking, what do you think of Takeda Nikiris? So maybe it's your turn, because we both have opinions about Takeda knives.
Yeah. I don't own a Takeda knife. I do want one. Let me see what I've got here, Thomas. Oh, I've only got a heavy knife. I don't have anything very tall, but it'll get the point across to this. The thing about a Takeda knife is that I think everyone should have one. Oh, you know what? Alex has a bunker, and I bet you he left it here.
All right.
I'm just gonna go rifling through my coworker's stuff. No, of course he brought it home. The one day I need it.
Well, while Chris is rummaging and rifling, I'll tell you my theory about Takeda knives. I think Takeda-san makes brilliant knives. Every step of the process, he has thought about it and thought, how can I make it better? Right? For example, when he used to weld stainless steel tangs on his knife to go inside the handle. So he used to make all carbon steel blades and then weld stainless steel to go into the handle, because he didn't want it rusting inside the handle like happens with old knives. So he thought the knife will live longer if I have a stainless steel thing. He also knows he wasn't great at welding, so he sent it off down the street to a guy that was a really good welder. You know, so he made a lot of changes with his knives all the time, thinking, how can I make this knife better? How can I make it better? And his main focus has always been a thinner knife cuts better. So he's trying to make his knives thin, 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 thin. He, in fact, I think is trying to make a piece of paper. So if you look at his knives now and compare them to the 13-year-old Takeda I've got a 240 mil that's 12 or 13 years old now. You'll see that my blade is considerably fatter, considerably thicker, which is really interesting, because my blade, I thought that was super thin, but now it feels heavy compared to the ones he's making now, right? So what do I think of Takeda Nikiris? I think everybody who loves everybody who loves knives should have a Takeda knife. I don't think anybody needs a set of knives from Takeda, although I've got a few. I don't think anybody needs a set. I think they're kind of weird. They're kind of too tall. They're kind of too thin. They kind of feel like a canoe paddle in ways. I think his Nikiris are great. I think his 210 Gyuto is the best knife he makes. I think if you really love knives, get the 210 Gyuto. It's the combination of everything weird. It's 240. It's 240 millimeters long. It's super light, a 270, a 300 even. I would say get one of those 3 of the bigger Gyutos of his. They're light, they're cool to use, they look rad, and they're nothing like anything else you've used before. He also makes great Nikiris, but I don't know if his Nikiris are that much better or unique to other Nikiris so much. They are a bit taller, but so are the Masakagis, right? And I wouldn't say they're any thinner than a Kumo Nikiri. They might be, but it's like very, very little in the game. So there you go. I think Takeda's knives are fantastic. I've known Takeda-san for years. We go fishing. We have a good time together. He always tries to make me terrible okonomiyaki that he loves, and he knows I don't really like it.
You don't like that stuff.
He figures I just have to eat it more, and he's gonna trick me into liking it. Good guy. Thought about the knife making process, thought about it deeply, and ripped apart every aspect of how he makes a knife, and still is changing how he makes knives, right? He's still changing it all the time, which is amazing.
When I started working at Knifeware, we had the Takeda AS. He only had so it was Takeda for a long period of time, and a lot of people still reach out and ask us if we have any of these knives. So for a long time, Takeda just used to use carbon steel, super blue carbon steel, Algami Super, and he would jacket that in a softer iron, like a lot of blacksmiths do that, right?
Even before that, you could have a choice of Algami 1 or Algami Super,
Okay.
but both clad with carbon steel.
Yeah, and it was around the time when I started working here, so about 5.5 years ago, he shifted over to just Algami Super with a stainless jacket. And I'll get you to correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, but it's my understanding that he did that because stainless steel, generally speaking, is more rigid than the metal they would use for the cladding, and because his knives used to have the tendency to bend.
Yeah.
So they were more flexible.
They're so thin they can bend quite easily.
Yeah.
Right.
So he put the
So
stainless on.
he experimented with using Algami Super with stainless wrapped around it on hunting knives and folding knives for about 3 or 4 years before he finally made the switch. And he loves the kitchen knives made that way because there's two major improvements. One, they don't rust nearly as easily, right? So it's a lot easier to take care of it. And two, the other big thing is they're way more rigid.
Yeah.
You would have to bend and work really hard to bend his knives now. Whereas when it was the Algami Super knives, I was often bending them back into shape for people because they were so thin and they were flexible that way.
Yeah,
right. So Thomas, if you have any follow-up questions, let us know. I hope that was helpful for you. Brian Crook
really
says, sorry for all the questions.
No,
but
no, not at all.
Can we play? No, the questions are great. I love it.
Yeah.
Can we play fill in the blank? I have a Mizaki Petty, rock on, a Koishi Bunka, yes.
Yeah.
Yoshida ZDP Nakiri, oh. A Shimo 240, like mine, oh. And he needs something lasery around maybe sub 800. Dude, if you wanted to get, Chris, go over and get some things. Go and get a 210 Denka.
Yep.
Go get a 210, I guess, go get a 210 Kotetsu.
Well, I'm going to have to show him a Kotetsu Tsujihiki because I don't have a...
Okay. You don't have any of those Shiki Damascus or Kobayashi Damascus, do you?
No, they're long gone.
Brian, the Kobayashi Damascus fits the bill.
Yeah.
The Denka 210 fits the bill for sure.
Yeah.
I've actually got, do you know this, Chris? Do you know I've got 3 Fujiwara Denka 210s, Chris?
No.
Because I'm an idiot. I've actually got 3 of the same damn knife. One's got an ironwood handle, one's got a red handle, and one's got the standard handle.
Yeah.
It's a long story how I ended up with the third one. The third one was a total. Looks like you're stabbing your face. That felt
nothing gets as sharp as a Denka.
Nothing cuts like a Denka. I know that people have different opinions about it, but I'll tell you what, man, thinned and sharpened, that knife is bonkers.
Well, you know my buddy Drew.
Bonkers.
Drew has, so my friend, I got lots of friends who are cooks, but my friend Drew has a Denka. He has a bunch of knives. Drew has a Denka. And it's the only It's the only knife he uses. He has it sharpened once a year, and he's a professional cook.
Yeah.
You know? So, and then this is a Kotetsu, but it's not the size. You're looking for something this size, and it's taller, but this is the best I got for you.
Yeah, Brian, listen, I would suggest the Kobayashi SG2. If there's any with fancy handles left, grab one of them. Those are rad. That's what I run. I love it. Or just get a Denka. Just get a Denka 210. Like I said, I've got 3 of them. That's so stupid. I've got 3 Denka 210s. It's ridiculous.
I think the 210 is going to squeak out of his budget just a hair, but if you're going to spend $800, $850 is nothing. Yeah, it's $852 before tax.
Well, I know the Kobayashi.
Action going on down our street today.
The Kobayashi SG2 Damascus is well within the budget. Even with the crazy handle, it's still within the budget.
Yeah,
I'd say get the crazy handle. The crazy handles are awesome.
Okay.
We've also got some more crazy.
There's still one left.
Yeah, I think there's a couple. I think there's that really pink handle one left.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a few of them. They're $5.93 for the knife that Kevin is describing
Yeah.
right now, and it's worth every penny. It's exactly what you're describing you want.
Yeah, but if you don't have a Denka, you should
Yeah.
just you should get one. Here, Brian, I'll make it easy for you. Get the Denka 210 and get the Kobayashi Tsujihiki.
Yeah, there you go.
If there is one, is there a Tsujihiki in
I
that
don't
line?
think he's got one right now, but I'm sure it's the kind of thing he'd come across. What did Brian say he had for a petty?
He said he's got a Manaka. Oh, Mazaki petty. Koishi
Yeah, but is it a
Banka.
120 or is it a 150? Because we've got, I'm looking here, we've got a 150 Kobayashi petty.
Show us. Where is it?
No, I don't have it here. It's in the, I'm just looking on the website.
Oh, I thought you had it there.
No, I wish. Yeah, those are the ones, Kobayashi SG2. That's what you want, my friend.
Yeah. No follow-up questions about the Kotetsu versus Masashi. No follow-up about Takeda Nakiri, which is too bad.
We must be really good at explaining things.
1500 is definitely the way choice. Oh, I don't know what that means.
Maybe he means
But-
150. We didn't recommend anything that was 1500. We weren't.
Maybe
there was
it's
no Hinora
because I
Shiroshu.
did kind of say you should just get both.
Yeah, that's probably what he means. But it's really
Anthony's asking. Anthony's got a quick, interesting question. He says.
Yeah.
He says. Any experience with Murray Carter and his white #1 knives? If so, does it compare to Fujiwara-san white #1, or any notable makers that use this steel? It's becoming my favorite. Mr. Fujiwara makes a lot more knives than Murray Carter, and his knives are generally less expensive. Murray Carter is very, very good at marketing.
Okay.
Murray's knives are great, but I have a lot of Fujiwara knives and a Murray Carter knife.
Well, I wonder. I think one of the big things about Fujiwara that other people don't do, and I can't really speak to Murray Carter. I don't know as much about him, but I know something that Fujiwara does that a lot of other blacksmiths don't do, and it really pushes Fujiwara's stuff up. Is the fact that he does all of his own forge welding in house. Like he doesn't.
Not for the Nishiji line,
No,
just for the just for the Danka no Hoto and the Maburoshi no Miyato lines.
Yeah. So the Nishiji line, he's purchasing a pre-clad billet of steel and hammering into knives. But for the Maburoshi and the Dankas, he's doing that himself. So the steel, instead of purchasing, this is the way it was always explained to me. You know, when you buy a bar of steel, it looks like that when you put it together, like when you start hammering it. But when you're forge welding it the way that Fujiwara does, you're starting with 3 pieces of steel that thick. So you're starting with something like that.
He starts
that
with
gets
a
hammered
big,
into that.
fat lump of steel. And what it does, the extra hammering makes the steel tougher and harder, right? All the hammering does is compresses. Well, what Fujiwara told me is it pushes the molecules closer together. It actually makes the steel denser. And if you pick up his Maburoshi knives versus his Nishiji knives, they're heavier, and they're the same steel.
Yeah, that's. I would agree with that. There's a couple of people over on Instagram, and one of them has a really good question, and I would.
Well,
like
you should tell them to come and join us here.
You should join us over on YouTube. If you go to knifeword.com/YouTube, you'll get a little bit more. The audio and the visual is a lot better. Kevin is joining us. We kind of got a split screen going on. And I was chopping a bunch of veggies. I finished. And I didn't chip any knives. So yes, you can use a Japanese knife to cut squash. But yeah, come over there. And I'm gonna mention your question. And so Kevin, it kind of, not to, I'm not trying to give anyone a hard time, but it comes up every week. A Shigafusa knife, what's the edge like out of the box?
Shigafusa, Now, this actually is a really great segue because we were talking about Murray Carter knives, and I was going to say, if you want to buy an exceptional knife from an exceptional American blacksmith, look for Bob Kramer. Bob Kramer's knives are light years ahead of Murray Carter's. They're also 4 times the price. But what Bob Kramer's doing now is he's got a crucible steel forge, so he's actually making his own steels. He's melting things down and adding things to it to get a steel the way he wants it to be, which is outstanding. And his fit and finish on his knives are without compare, right? So Bob Kramer's doing excellent stuff. Bob Kramer, last time I was talking with him, he told me that Shigefusa makes the best knives in Japan. Now, he's only visited 4 people that make knives in Japan, and one was a sword maker. So he doesn't have a ton of experience, but just the fact that he throws his weight behind Shigefusa as being an incredible blacksmith says a lot. The Shigefusa knives, the fit and finish is perfect. The edge out of the box is perfect. Like the knives, when you open the box and you grab a Shigefusa knife, it's perfect, right? Generally, you have to wait a long time. It's hard to get them. We get as many as we can. It's not very many. We get a few every month.
Yeah.
We put them on the website. They disappear immediately. If you want a Shigefusa knife, go to our website and sign up. It says contact me when it's available, and just click that box for all the Shigefusa knives that you like. Click that box. As soon as we come in, you'll get an email. I hope that W Sides 1991 has joined us on YouTube so he can hear this. Otherwise, he's just looking at a picture of you being quiet.
No, he can hear you. I turned the speaker on so that he could get that just in case.
Okay, good.
Yeah. I saw, you know what, I said that I've never seen a Shigefusa, but we got one in for Daw one time. Daw's
has Daw got a Shigefusa?
He does, yeah. He's got like a little 210 Yanagiba or something like that.
Oh, Daw.
Well, Daw's got one of everything, you know. So he says he got one this week, just not quite as sure. Well, where are you located? You should probably let it. We can. He's saying he got one this week, not as sharp as he'd like. Well, you know what? Send us a message at hello@knifeware.com, and we'll kind of dig a little bit deeper, and then we'll see what we can do about that for you.
One thing I would say is if you've got a leather strop, just touching up on leather strop, you can save yourself a lot of headache if you just give it a leather strop. That's often the only thing.
Yeah, that usually makes up the difference.
It usually is the only thing to hold you back from sharp to insane sharp. Often knives out of Japan could just benefit from a little bit of that, especially if it's carbon steel, because sometimes they get micro corrosion just along the edge and it doesn't feel quite as sharp. But the strop zips it right up. The other thing you can do too, and I'll show you here, like this. This is my dad jokes book.
Yep.
But you can strop. So hold it at that kind of angle. And you'd want to do this on newspaper, really, rather than the dad jokes book. But this is a great way just to get that last little extra 3% out of your knife.
I usually do, like if I do, I always finish a straight razor on newspaper whenever I'm doing them for customers. It really puts a lot more life into them. Oh, I'm also left-handed, W Sides, and this is, you know what, everyone should hear about this. W Sides is saying it's a great knife. I'm also left-handed, so the D handle is a bit weird. I'm a lefty, and the D handles are my favorite. And I know that I'm a bit.
He says this often. He's crazy.
Yeah, I know that I'm the weird one, but there is something about it. I own 5 or 6 Moritaka knives, and they've all got the D-shaped handle on them, and they're my favorites to use. But if it's not a D-shaped handle, I think I like an octagon is next. and then a round handle like an oval. But it's a close race.
Octagon's
Close
my
race.
favorite.
I didn't leave
Easy.
many. I didn't leave many options. You know who's got a really cool handle? Is Masashi.
Oh,
Masashi's
yeah,
got
yeah,
the
yeah.
weird one. Look at this. So this one's, it's got like this weird hybrid kind of oval octagon. So it's got 3 ridges up on the top and then oval on the bottom. There's something real cool about that. That's one of my favorites. I've only ever seen it on his knives. It's only a couple of lines. No one else really does that, do they, Kevin?
No, you know what happened? That is a sample knife or a sample handle that our man Kazama Man was working on.
Ah.
So that was a Kazama original, and then he asked me what I thought, and I said, "Man, these are great." And then Masashi's like, "Yeah, can I just put them on all my knives?" And I went, "Sure."
Yeah.
And
No,
bada
they're
boom, bada
amazing.
bing. I was there at the right time to watch all that happen.
That was a real, that's the old Kazama combo right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So why W sides, give it a strop and let me know. I'd like to know one way or the other if you're up for it. Yeah, you can shoot me an email, chris@knifeware.com. I'd like to know how that goes for you. I'd be happy to kind of help you along the way if it needs anything else. So,
If you've got a leather strop with some
don't-
compound, leather strop with compound would be great. If you don't have that, your belt, the inside of your belt is great. And if and newspaper, and the cheaper, rougher newspaper is better than nice newspaper.
yeah, and lots
So
of
if you've got like a free music magazine in Seattle, I think you said he's from Seattle, or was it St. Louis?
might-
I don't know what STL is. Is that Seattle?
STL, maybe St. Louis.
Yeah, I don't
If
really
I had to
know.
guess, that's one of my favorite places.
But yeah, if you've got a leather strop, use that. If not, try the newspaper trick. It's a good one, and it's often just micro corrosion right on the coba, like the really right along the very small edge. St. Louis. I saw a food program from St. Louis a couple of years ago, and I've decided I need to go to St. Louis. It looked like everything there was fantastic.
Mm.
And I don't remember much about it except that I thought St. Louis is cool. I know they got a big arch,
Yeah.
and it looked like they had just really like a really eclectic restaurant scene.
Yeah. Wasn't Charles Lindbergh's plane like the something of St. Louis?
The spirit.
Spirit of St.
Yeah.
Louis. He says the food scene's insane. You'll love it.
Ah, I can't go to the United States right now. They don't want me.
Yeah. Maybe one day.
One day. One day.
One day we'll get back.
Anthony says, I use shun knives at work with VG Max steel. I think it's VG10 steel. The edge retention's okay. Yep, I agree. But I want to upgrade to another stainless steel. Would SG2 or R2 be a good choice? I butcher and portion fish 5 days a week. I don't like to get SG2 or R2 steel around big, heavy fish bones. But after the bones are out, go for it.
Yeah.
That'd be my thing on that. If you're looking for a really stable stainless steel, look at the Chromax or Cobalt Specials. Both of those are really. Or look at this. Look at this guy again. The Tanaka ATS 34. The Tanaka. Or sorry, Manaka. Sorry, not Tanaka. Manaka ATS 34. This is a rugged little blade with a rugged steel. And that one that Chris has got there too, the
Kurosaki.
Kurosaki Sasame. Is that the Sasame?
Yep. Yes, sir.
These two are super rugged for how long they stay sharp.
Oh,
and
you know what I would get?
These will make your shuns be embarrassed. Chris, let's go to St. Louis. Let's go to St. Louis and eat, man.
Okay, we're on the way. Pull down the Murphy bed. We're coming.
KW Sides 1991. We're coming. Chris and I are coming to sleep on your couch.
Yeah.
Ah!
Yeah, we're big, so hope you got a lot of room.
And we got to eat at Pappy's Smokehouse in St. Louis if we go there.
Oh, who's saying that? That's the Voog, isn't it?
Nah, it's the Don Penny, the one that makes the best brisket in Ottawa.
That's true. You know what? Don Penny should come over to my house and cook me brisket if he's going to talk so much shit.
He talks a lot of shit about you.
Yeah.
Mostly in private messages.
And obviously, Kevin, you wouldn't lie to me.
I would
because-
never lie to you. I'm not trying to cause you and Don Penny to fight and for you to both cook me brisket next time I'm in Ottawa. That's not my plan.
Not your plan. I didn't think that. There's no way that could have been your plan. So
That wouldn't be the responsible thing to do.
no, that's not what a good pal would do.
No.
That was a good question. You know what, Kevin? I think this week has been top tier for question asking.
I think so. We didn't do a very good job of saying what is the best 7-piece knife set.
No,
Since we didn't
I guess
answer
we'll
it
just
at
have to
all.
talk about it next week. I have to do it next week. It'll be like on like Jimmy Kimmel, where like every night he's like, "Oh, my apologies to Matt Damon. We ran out of time."
We
Yeah.
didn't have Matt Damon on tonight. You're right.
No, maybe
He
the
didn't bring a
7
mask. He didn't bring a
7
mask. That's his problem.
He didn't. He wasn't allowed in.
Hey, do you want to see the meat that I'm braising, Chris? Remember I was braising it when we talked
yeah,
earlier?
yeah.
I think it should be done. Let's go pull it out of the oven, should we?
Yeah, go for it.
I have some cured and smoked pork belly, as well as some pork stew. Let's see what happens here.
What's that pot on the back there? Did you get one of those Combeck Dutch ovens?
When you said one, do you mean two?
You got two of them? You got one in the oven
Yeah.
and one on the stove.
Yeah,
Holy
I
shit,
bake
that's
sourdough bread in them.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see.
Let's take a look at this.
Can you see that?
Oh yeah, that looks good.
So that's a couple of lumps of belly and some potatoes
Yeah.
and some onions.
Is that for dinner tonight?
Ooh, let's see.
Ah,
Oh, tender. And the little cubes of shoulder in here. Look at this.
yeah.
This little shoulder cubes. And watch this.
Oh, you know what I'm gonna say something right now as you're doing that,
Onions.
as you're
And look at there's
poking things.
potatoes. There's potatoes in here. And there's beer and
Most
garlic.
things, just so everyone knows,
All
just so
kinds of
everyone's
good
on the
stuff.
same page as this, if you can poke something and you can get through it, it's cooked. Like braised.
Dude, if you can
But you
poke
know what?
something, you get through, it's cooked. And if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. The one thing I like to point out about braising things like pork belly is that you can overcook it. It can
Oh yeah,
get
it just
too
becomes.
soft. If it turns to
yucky
mush,
then though.
yeah. There's someone in my family, I'm not gonna say who exactly they are, but used to say things like, "Oh, I braised it so long you could eat the bones." It's like, well, I don't want to eat the bones. That's too much. It's like cat
No.
food.
No. Hey,
I don't
look,
think they're watching.
Maui into house.
Oh, look at that.
Justin B from Maui.
That's Justin Bieber.
Justin Bieber from Maui. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Justin
Indeed.
Bieber from Maui. Thanks for joining. I love Maui.
Yeah.
I miss Maui. I want to go back.
Never been.
Well, we can go one day instead of going to Japan.
True. Japan's fun too,
Um,
though.
Listen, if there's no more questions, maybe we should just go. I've got dinner ready
Yeah.
now.
You've got dinners ready. Yeah. I've got to ride my motorcycle in the rain again. So
Oh, and Anthony Bark is in Maui too.
I feel like I know that name.
Yeah.
Do I? Oh, you guys should like meet up for a beer. Oh, that's Razor Sharp Hawaii. Oh, okay. That makes more sense now. Okay. Just watch, you know what? Just watch the video over here. Just come over here. YouTube is the way to go. I got Instagram on. There's 2 people watching. But if they really wanted to see what was going on, they would go to YouTube.
Well,
You get there by going knifeware.com/YouTube. And you can, that's where we're looking for questions. It's just that I'm too nice and I haven't given up on Instagram yet. But YouTube is better. Facebook's there too, but YouTube is the easiest. YouTube's the best. Where you can ask questions. We do this every week, right? So what's today? Tuesday? Today's Tuesday. Every Tuesday at 6 o'clock Eastern time or 4 o'clock Mountain time, or I know Vancouver, I don't know what time that is, but they'd be at 3. Kevin and I get together. We do what we call Japanese Knife 101. It's kind of like it's the knifeware AMA, right? Do you need help picking out a knife? Can you not tell? Like, and all questions are welcome, right? No one's like, if you don't know the difference between the Santoku and the Kyoto, that's cool. We'll help you. If you don't know the difference between super blue carbon steel and blue carbon steel, that's fine. We're not gonna make fun of you. We're here to help you. Like, this is like a kind of, no prejudice, fight elitism knife conversation. All right. Because it's like one of the big things, like I always describe my job to people is helping them pick out the knife that's right for them. Right. It's not about me being this big nerd and like throwing a bunch of facts at people and like.
But you are.
I am, but I don't throw the facts. I'm a big nerd, but in a different way. I'm one of the ones who work at Knifeware who knows more about how to use knives than how to make knives. So if you ask questions that are too hard, that's why Kevin's here, because I don't know as much.
So razor sharp Maui.
Razor sharp.
Do you sharpen razors? Razor sharp Maui?
Yeah, Justin's been hanging out in a bunch of videos lately. He's got some good questions. He's got some good insight as to what we're talking about. But yeah, I don't really know what.
Maybe he'll tell us that he sharpens knives. Maybe he sells Japanese knives. Maybe he has a Japanese knife shop in Lahaina or something. Who knows? I don't know. And poking that pork belly like it's David Blaine.
David.
I don't know what that means. Justin B, does that mean you sharpen knives and shears, or you sell knives and shears? Are you in Lahaina? Can I come and see you next time I'm in Lahaina?
He does. I'm looking at his Instagram. We'll give him a little bit of a, hey, what's up? He does, he does a lot of repair stuff.
Oh, yeah?
Beveling, chip and bends, handle repair, mirror polishing, custom size, and magnetic knife holders. Your sayas look cool. Sayas are fun. They're just, your best bet is to find someone like Justin and have them make one specific for your knife.
Yeah. Look at that, he's just sharpening. Look at that. He's got some Mac knives on there.
Mm-hmm.
He's got some shears, some old cleavers. Look at that. Where in Maui? Now I'm just like planning my next trip. I'm planning my next trip to Lahaina side, but only for friends. Oh, that's Anthony. All right, next time I come to Lahaina, I'm coming to visit you. Razor sharp knives. That's my whole thing.
He's in upcountry. Does that mean anything to you?
Yeah, probably means he's up in that other town that I'm thinking of. That's called the one with with cowboys. The one with cowboys that is kind of not by the ocean, but has great views of the ocean. In the really cute town up there, but I can't remember the name. Makawa. That's the one. Yeah.
Makawa. Yeah. Cool. Well, here.
I like that. I like Maui. I don't know if you know that. We're just talking about stupid shit now. Maybe it's time to say goodbye.
I was gonna give my weekly spiel. I was gonna give my closing spiel, and I was gonna give everyone.
Oh, you got to do like those guys. You got to say, like, if you liked it, give us a thumbs up and subscribe.
Oh yeah, you could do that.
Why do they do that? Why do they say that all the time?
I don't know. I think if more people like our videos, more people are happy or will happen by them by accident if they're liked. So yeah, I guess you guys could like and subscribe to the Knifeware YouTube channel. That would be fun because we do put up a lot of stuff. More than
I put up with you a lot.
Oh. You already gave my job to someone else today.
He was nicer to me.
He
said nice things.
You haven't given my job away or fired me in a while, so.
Well, not since like earlier today.
Yeah. So every week we've got a couple of live videos, and we do post stuff up onto Instagram and YouTube quite frequently. So for live videos on Tuesdays, we've got our Japanese Knife 101. So that's what you're watching today. it's usually Kevin and I figure out a loose theme, and that's what we get started talking on. But it very quickly turns into answering questions for you folks, and we would rather do that anyways. We would rather reward those watching and help you pick out your knives, which is more fun.
Well, yeah, and people ask better questions than we ever think of to talk about.
Yeah. Well, because if it just ends up just the two of us talking and no one watching, we'll be done in like 10 minutes.
Or we'll just talk about new dice for your D&D.
Yeah.
And motorcycle bits, and how we'll probably talk about how fucking leaky my old Mustang is, and it's leaked everywhere, and it's leaked, and I paid some dude to fix a bunch of leaks, and it's worse.
Oh, that's not how it's supposed to happen. So on
It's supposed to
Tuesdays,
get better.
we do Japanese Knife 101, right? Where it's kind of like, the two old men from the Muppets talking about knives. Is essentially what happens.
We need a balcony.
Thursdays, Thursday evenings, we've got the crew out in Vancouver does a sharpening class.
Yeah.
So it's something that you can follow along with. It's usually, let's call it more basic techniques, right? We're using some lower grit stones. Maybe we're working on a Western knife or something that's pretty kind of par for the course. Like it's more of like, let's learn how to tune up what we have. And that's the crew out in Vancouver. So it's usually Owen and Francis taking care of that class. On Friday afternoons is where you go for the really nerdy sharpening questions, because it's Kevin and Naoto, and that's our advanced sharpening class. So usually that operates a lot like what we just did, but instead of picking out a knife or talking about knives, we're talking about how to sharpen them. And like we've done days just dedicated to rust removal. We've done chip repair. We've done broken tips. I don't know if we've rehandled the knife on there yet. I can't remember.
This Friday is Francis from Vancouver and I doing it, because Naoto's away.
Fun.
So we're doing tip repair.
Oh, cool.
So I hope Franny knows. Somebody should tell him.
Francis is a very, very talented
Yeah.
And then I guess that's it, eh? We're doing three live classes or shows a week. And then there's tons of other great content on our website and on YouTube. So, some variants. I do a lot of the knife skills stuff, and then Naoto and Mike and Nathan all do some sharpening stuff. And, if you need a hand, just reach out to us. Take a look.
All right, the Voog says it's ad revenue and our search results is why you want people to subscribe and like. So everybody, subscribe and like so you can see some Williams-Sonoma ads on this channel. Won't that be fun?
Oh, there we go. I'm gonna click it. I just liked it. I liked it right there.
And here's a crazy question. What's the minimum level of sharpness acceptable for a kitchen knife? I think I'm pragmatic about it. Once you can't stand it, sharpen it. Everybody's got a level of what they'll accept.
Yeah, I was gonna say all Alex Dufour is waving on Instagram. He's the only person watching. I'm gonna flip him the bird. Hey, Al. Woo. There we go. Al's the assistant manager here, so I just flipped him off on Instagram for everybody. My kind of benchmark for sharpness is, will it cut a tomato?
Yep.
Try to slice a tomato. If it doesn't work, use your honing rod. If it still doesn't work, time to sharpen it. That doesn't matter if it's a Western knife, Japanese knife, X-Acto knife, I don't care. Tomato is the benchmark. A lot of people kind of mess around, try to shave hair on their arm, or they'll like scrape into their fingernail, or they'll try to swipe a piece of newspaper over the air. For me, I don't know. Just go with go with something like practical,
If you struggle with a tomato, sharpen a knife. I like it. That's what I do at my place.
Alex's machine gun hitting the heart on Instagram right now.
He's trying to get a raise, isn't he?
He is somehow. Yeah.
Tell him he's fired.
You're fired, Al. Sorry, bud.
This has gone off the rails.
Yeah, I got fired.
Apparently my leaky Mustang is just horsepower sweat. Nah, it's a 66 Mustang. There's no horsepower left in it. It makes a lot of noise, but doesn't really go very quick. Looks good though. And leaks. If you want me to come and ruin your new garage floor, I can do that.
Oh, nice.
So leaky.
All right. Well, if we're just, I think that's now that everyone had their chance there for more questions. So I think we're going to say goodbye for today. Next week, Kevin and I are going to talk about what makes the perfect 7-piece set.
We're going to talk about that next week, are we? Are we going to
Next
try?
week. We ran out of time, but next week we'll talk about the perfect 7-piece set.
All right.
Thanks,
Press
everybody, for
subscribe
watching.
and like down below. Do
Yeah,
those
if you do
things.
that, all those things. If you, more seriously, if you need a hand, if you're kind of cruising around on the website, you can't figure something out for yourself, you need a second opinion, whatever the case may be, send us an email to hello@knifeware.com. And one of the staff will get back to you ASAP. There's usually someone keeping an eye on that email address for 10 hours a day.
And if you
So,
want to email Chris,
yeah.
email CHRIS. That kind of Chris. CH.
Yeah.
Chris at
No.
knifeware.com.
No, if you think I'm an idiot and you want to tell me so, send it to KRIS@knifeware.com.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
if
the
you
other
feel
Chris.
like harassing me, like if I've really offended you somehow and you just need to tell me like it is, KRIS@knifeware.com.
Well, there you go. Listen, if you've had a fun time and you want to talk to me at Knifeware, you just write Kevin@knifeware.com. If you think that I'm a dick, put Mike@knifeware.com. All right.
Oh, you should have just said it. All right.
Aloha.
Have a good one, guys.
Ciao.
Later.